So I don't usually talk about Xbox much, but I think that there is a massive problem that's going to cause a huge shift in the industry because this is not good. Microsoft is in a whole heap of trouble, and it does seem like there's going to be massive changes here that's going to shake up the foundation of what we know about Xbox to this point based off of what Asha Sharma has said recently. It also confirms exactly what I've been saying for quite some time, and I've had Xbox fans tell me that I'm wrong because Phil Spencer says all these good things, but the Xbox business, the whole business model is not working. They have been bleeding when it comes to the profitability for a sustainable business when it comes to what they're doing. It's been bad for the last 5 years. And Asha Sharma came out and just said it. So you don't even have to take my word for it or anything like that. We're going to read exactly what she has to say. And we're going to talk about what's going to happen with Microsoft because I think this is going to have an effect on Project Helix. It's going to have an effect on games that come over to PlayStation or Nintendo. It's going to have an effect on different companies within Microsoft, or more like the different development studios. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happening, and it does seem like things are looming when it comes to July, which we'll get into as well. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. So first, starting off on the Xbox Wire website, their own direct information to talk to the fans out there. Asha Sharma has multiple different bullet points, a lot of corporate jargon kind of in there, but there's two bullet points or two numbers when it comes to her list here that we need to discuss that kind of just lays it all out on the table. So let's go ahead and get into the number 2 of what she says. We will end this fiscal year at about a 3% accountability margin, down year over year. Excluding Activision Blizzard King, over the past 5 years, we have spent over $20 billion on ongoing investments in our content, platform, and hardware subsidy. But our annual revenue has declined nearly $500 million during that time. Going forward, this cannot continue. Now, here's the third point. We're going to get to that when it comes to the wrap up and everything, but here's the third point that she has to say. We are in a hardware component crisis. When I joined as CEO in February, the price we paid for console storage components was over 2 times as high as we paid last fall. These costs have since doubled again, and as we plan for the 2027 holiday season, we expect another significant increase, taking us over 5 times the prices we paid only 2 years earlier. Memory costs have followed a broadly similar trajectory. While the entire industry is facing a components crisis, we believe we have been impacted more greatly than many of our peers due to the choices we made over the last half decade. We are currently unable to make as many consoles as players want to buy, and we need a new business model and partnerships for hardware as we remain committed to Helix. So that's very interesting that she says that, because there's not a lot of people that were actually buying the Xbox Series. But they do have Forza, they do have some games, and they went to a super low production model. That's why when it comes to Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer, they went to the whole everything is an Xbox. They had already given up on the hardware, and they were producing such a low amount when it comes down to it. When Asha Sharma came in and she's trying to kind of turn the business when it comes to the console business around, she's looking at that, and they have Forza and they have stuff that's kind of increased the demand a little bit, but it's like going from, I don't know, producing 10 to maybe 20 or 25. And I'm not saying that that's the actual number, but I'm just giving you guys an example. So yes, if you're only producing this small amount and there is a bit of an increase in demand because of a game like Forza Horizon, for example, yes, then you can't produce as many, because then you're going to completely turn your business upside down, because you're going to spend a lot more than when it comes to the production and the shipping and all that and the memory costs than really what you're even going to be able to sell when it comes down to it. There is no real profit margin on the Xbox Series console. There just isn't. It's super expensive. The memory's even more. They upped the price of it already multiple times, and it's still just not enough. I mean, it's nearly $800 for the 2 terabyte Xbox Series S, that one or whatever, the special edition ones. It's crazy. It's $650 for the standard one and $400 for the Xbox Series S. And the level of what people want when it comes to the Series S and the Series X, it kind of goes up and down and it fluctuates. So it's just one of the things. And she says it right there in her message. She says that like we made a lot of bad decisions over the last 5 years, and that's what's causing it to be a problem. And that's why it's impacting them more now at this point than maybe Nintendo or Sony, that has a guaranteed base of people and the amount when it comes to the shipment amount of buying. So maybe they can be in a little bit better spot. But Nintendo raised prices. They raised it by $50, and they might raise it again considering the expense of memory. Sony raised prices multiple times as well, so they're all feeling it, but they sell way more volume. So it's maybe a bit better for them compared to Microsoft, which sells significantly less volume, but still is looking to try to see what they can do. So I think that right now they're in a bunch of trouble. Like, this is definitely not good. And I feel that it's going to get worse because Jason Schreier has a new article over on Bloomberg, and he talks about this, and he says that Xbox plans significant layoffs as new CEO plans overhaul. So let's get into this. So Microsoft Corp's Xbox division is planning major job cuts next month as new Chief Executive Officer Asha Sharma overhauls the video game unit to stem declining revenue. The layoffs, which is not yet clear, are expected shortly after the close of Microsoft's fiscal year on June 30th. According to people familiar with the company's strategy, who asked not to be identified because they're not authorized to speak to the press, Xbox is also planning to significantly slash budgets for marketing and some other areas of the business, the people said. A spokesperson for Xbox declined to comment. Sharma is quickly making her mark on the unit since she became the CEO of Xbox in February. She has spoken publicly about the organization's challenges, saying recently at the Bloomberg Tech conference that she planned on resetting the business, which was not in a healthy spot. In an email to employees on Wednesday, seen by Bloomberg and later posted on the Xbox blog, Sharma wrote that the business had plummeted to a 3% accountability margin, the metric Microsoft uses to reflect profit margin. Once a titan of the video game industry, Xbox has struggled to grow over the past few years. Sales at its hardware business have plummeted. It has failed to consistently deliver hit games, and the popularity of its subscription service, Game Pass, has plateaued. Under pressure from its parent company to boost margins, Xbox has spent the past 2 years shuttering studios, canceling games, and raising prices. Xbox has industry-defining franchises that have enormous potential and player demand, Sharma did right, but we have not adequately funded them to compete and win. At the same time, a reliable pipeline of exclusive games and new IP are critical to success, she added. Quote, we need to reassess the balance between these and our investment priorities for the next 5 years. Sharma said Xbox would need to rebuild this platform infrastructure and rethink its portfolio in the weeks and months to come. The company has expanded in order to increase its content pipeline, but has found itself overextended as we executed on changing strategies in a landscape of more readily available content. Now, in recent years, Xbox has released most of its software on rival consoles from Sony Corp, PlayStation, and Nintendo Co., which help games such as Indiana Jones and Forza Horizon reach far bigger audiences, but the move away from exclusivity may have damaged the appeal of Xbox hardware along the way. Sharma is looking to reverse course. On Sunday, during a video presentation that showcased the company's slate of upcoming games, she announced that Gears of War E-Day and Clockwork Revolution will not come to PlayStation or Switch. In subsequent interviews, she and her executive team have said they will handle future titles on a case-by-case basis. A PlayStation 5 version of the new Gears of War game was in development and had been planned for release until Sharma changed tack, according to people familiar with Xbox strategy. Retailers had been preparing to open pre-orders for the PlayStation 5 version, and many Xbox employees were surprised by the announcement. Now, Sharma and her team also pulled a Halo trailer that was due to appear at PlayStation's event last week, potentially damaging the relationship between the two companies, according to people familiar with the change of plans. Now, a return to exclusivity may excite diehard Xbox fans and improve prospects for the brand, but it also potentially means sacrificing a significant amount of revenue. The PlayStation 5 has sold more than 90 million units, while analysts estimate that the Xbox has sold roughly 1/3 of that, so about 30 million or so. In an email to staff, Sharma reiterated that Xbox is facing a component crisis and that by 2027 holiday season, she expects the company to be paying 5 times as much for storage and memory components as it did in 2024. As a result, she wrote they will have to change their overall strategy for the next gen console, codenamed Helix. So that's the thing that I talked about before. Like, they're gonna have to retool the Helix because she's talked about affordability. She's talked about what they need to do, and you cannot have by any means $1,000 system in today's day, today's market, $1,000 system and expect to be successful. You're just not, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen if you have $1,000 system. That was the plans apparently that Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer had for Xbox Helix before they were ousted, or Phil left or retired and Sarah Bond was ousted. That was their plan. I think Sharma is going to look at that. I think she's going to take her time, and I think she's going to reevaluate that whole system, because you cannot launch at $1,000. It's going to be DOA, in my opinion, if they do. Now, I've purchased Xbox systems for decades now, and I have the original Xbox, I have the 360, I have the Xbox One, I have the Xbox One X, I have the Xbox One S, I have the Xbox Series X as well, and I generally like their systems, but this is by far the least that I've played their systems over the past 10 years. With the Xbox One and the Xbox Series, I just don't play it anywhere near as much as my PlayStation 5 and my Nintendo Switch 2. And they've got the properties now at this point to be able to compete and to have a good lineup of games, but they've done a ton of damage since the Xbox One era. And the thing that I was saying, like, the biggest problem is that you can't buy $70 billion worth of studios and acquisitions and say, okay, you can just get all the games on this service. That just isn't a great business model. Sharma finally admitted that. They finally confirmed what I've been saying for quite some time, that you cannot buy all of that. You cannot get Elder Scrolls and Fallout and this and that and all these franchises that would usually go for, 50, 60, 70 bucks, whatever the case is, right, over the years, and people would buy them, then say, okay, it's on this service and you can just get it there. Every single game. They have so many studios. They have so many games coming out. It's not a winning business model. Sure, it's great for some people that like to be able to, like, the renting the games and having that library instantly on there. But for many people who go to work and have a job and they just don't come home and play video games all the time, there's just too much and it's not worth it. They'd rather just buy a game and have the game, because gaming is not like Netflix. It's not like Amazon or Hulu. It's not like a show where you can just kind of flick through and see what's there. It's interactive. It's intensive. You got to pay attention a lot. There's just too many differences for it to be like a Netflix style of thing. So that business model, in my opinion, it needs to be retooled. I don't know what Sharma's going to do. I don't think she's going to drop Game Pass. And I'm not saying that they should drop Game Pass, but I'm just saying that when you make $70 billion worth of acquisitions, then say you can just get it on this service. And then on top of that, you don't sell the systems and you don't have the actual service revenue to support that. I mean, it's going to be a problem, because they just weren't selling enough systems. You got to sell more systems to get people on Game Pass. People on PC aren't really messing with Game Pass like that, and there's issues on PC when it comes to the Game Pass service. So a lot of people just rather just go with Steam deals or GOG or even, heck, Epic Game Store for some people. But for the most part, people just rather just get their games, buy digital games on the cheap. So the proposition of Game Pass, and that's the reason why you buy an Xbox, that's the system seller, did not work out. And I kind of knew that the Game Pass thing wouldn't, because once again, as an adult, you just don't have time to be sitting there and going through scores of games. You're just going to want to play the game that you want to play and buy that game. So I think that that was a mistake when it comes to how they decided to do Game Pass. I think Sony and Nintendo handled it a bit better. They have their own services with games, but Nintendo, they're like, hey, you can get these classic old school games. We're not giving you all the big games and all of that. You might get a free trial here and there or a demo, but you're not getting all of our big games where we have all of our teams that we got to pay multi-million-dollar games. You're not just going to get all of that when it comes down to it for a really low subscription price. That's just not happening. And Sony did the same thing. They're like, hey, we're not just giving you those either. Like, we're going to have a subscription service, and you're going to be able to get big games on there, but not day one. We're not going to just throw everything on there. That's going to crush our business model and lead to problems. And Sony's already had some problems with layoffs and all of that. Imagine if they had more problems. Now, Microsoft has had multiple layoffs. Now they're going to have more. So this is definitely not good. It's not good. And I think that Sharma's coming in. She's going to try to fix things. She's going to try to slash the budget down. She's going to try to make things leaner and meaner. And I think that there's going to be a lot of conversation in July about what teams potentially get axed, what's going down here. I mean, I don't know, but it just doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem good at all based off this report that I'm reading, and the fact that they just flat out said it when it comes to the business model and how much they're losing it's just not working. So she's going to shake things up. She's going to try something different. I think she's going to try to return things back to maybe the 360 days. Oh, we'll see. That's going to be too hard, I think, at this point. It's just been so long since then. But you never know, right? Maybe she can turn things around. We've seen people turn things around before in gaming, and maybe Asha Sharma can do the same thing when it comes to Microsoft. They definitely have the games to get it done. Now it's just about executing this strategy to do it as well. But what do you guys think when it comes to what Asha Sharma had to say here and the situation with Microsoft? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other videos right here on screen, like this one talking about the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake on the Nintendo Switch 2.